Welcome, welcome to another episode, I guess, or another teaching on Corner of Truth. So our very first one was 2 Mondays ago. That one was on forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
The next one after that was on transform.
Yep.
And the first one, we kind of correlated that with Cain and Abel and how they had choices, and that Cain did not forgive. He had envy, he had strife, he was jealous, and ended up taking his brother's life. So we kind of correlated that into a thing that he should have forgave his brother, right? And then the next one was on transform, and we ended up using Romans 12 about we're in this world, but we're not of this world. And Paul wrote to the Romans saying, I urge you to not be that way. And by the renewing of your mind, transform, by the renewing of your mind. So that's where we went with those first 2 Mondays. Tonight, we're going to end up talking about self-centeredness. Self-centeredness. What do you, when you hear those words, what definition or what do you hear? What do you, just your own words, what do you think self-centeredness is?
Only caring about yourself, God. That's all I got. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Only caring about yourself.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there that they put themselves first, and we all do it at times. We all do it at times. The scriptures that I want to read tonight are out of the book of Luke, and it's in chapter 22, and we're going to pick up in 21-ish, right in that area, 21, 22. But it's right after Jesus is done at the Last Supper. And the church body, we use the Last Supper's, what word do I want to use? We use that identity or that purpose as what we call communion, right? So here's Jesus. He ends up blessing the bread. He ends up blessing the wine. And then it says in verse 21, it says, do you realize that the hand of the one who is betraying me is at this moment on this table? So Judas is there, obviously, right? And I want to hurry up and go through these because I want to get to the main topic part of this. It's true that the Son of Man is going down a path already marked out. No surprises there. Now, what Jesus is talking about there is he's already got his mind and his path set. He knows, and he's been telling the disciples for probably years now, or at least months, about the crucifixion and about what Jesus has to go through. So then it says, but for the one who turns him in, turns traitor to the Son of Man. This is doomsday. So he's telling the whole disciples at the table, one of you guys are going to turn me in. And immediately it says in verse 23, they immediately became suspicious of each other and began quizzing one another, wondering who might be about to do this. So every one of them are pointing at the other person. I bet it's you. And then you say,
I bet it's you.
Yeah. Can you imagine all these people, 12 disciples and Jesus, so there's 13 there, and every one of them, but Jesus is the one. I mean, and Jesus already knows which one it is. But here,
The person that did it knows that Jesus knows that it's him.
Yes, he even knows because he feels it in his heart and in his spirit. But
He's still trying to pin the blame on other people because he doesn't want to feel the one that's fully guilty about it.
yes, and don't we all do that? When we feel like
We're gonna get in trouble.
we're going to get into trouble or that we're doing something wrong, we always put up a defense. And we always say, well, if they wouldn't have done
This, I wouldn't have done that.
right.
Instead of that statement.
Yes, so this and that statement. Or what they'll say is they'll just outright lie
Yep.
and say, I didn't do it.
Not mine. Isn't mine.
Yeah. Whose bottle of water is this?
Not mine.
Yeah. If I ever find not mine in my house, I'm going to beat him. What's the other one? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Whose water is this? I don't know. Not mine. I don't know. Yeah. So they immediately started to question everybody. But did you notice that? They questioned everybody. They didn't question themselves. So they were all kind of automatically doing that self-centeredness right after the Last Supper.
Yep.
So now we get into the really meat and potatoes of tonight, okay? Verse 24, it says, within minutes, they were bickering over who of them would end up the greatest. Who's more popular? Who's you know, kids will probably do this, and you've heard this in our house. You've probably even stated this.
Okay.
Yeah. Mom loves Devin more than me, or Devin gets more than me. That, you know what I'm saying? Remember those days?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that this kind of reminds me of, and I hope Danny watches this.
Danny doesn't watch this.
Well, you need to tell
I do.
him. Okay. Do you remember when Danny was younger? And she still does it to this day. We'd walk out of Walmart or wherever we're shopping, and what would she do?
She'd run to the vehicle. She'd be the first one there.
Because she wanted to be the first one always to the car. And it's like,
Plot twist, car's still locked. Doesn't matter if you're the first one. Doesn't matter. Car's still locked.
Yeah.
And it will stay locked until the driver gets there.
but it was scary because we'd come out of the store, and if someone didn't get a hold of Danny,
She was gone.
She was like, boom, she would be like, she had no concept of cars or watching where she was going.
You can also take this, the rabbit and the hare. Rabbit used speed against the turtle. And the turtle still beat the rabbit because he used the slowness to his advantage.
Steady Eddie.
Yep, steady Eddie.
Steady Eddie. But within minutes, they were bickering over which one of them was going to be the greatest. But Jesus intervened. Kings like to throw their weight around, and people in authority like to give themselves fancy titles. It's not going to be that way with you. Now, he's telling this to the disciples, okay? And he says, let the senior among you become like the junior, or let the oldest of you become like a child, is what he's saying. Let the leader act the part of the servant. So that would, go ahead.
So what Jesus is implying is that he's reversing the roles for people.
Yeah.
So the old one's going to become the child, the leader's going to become the servant. So that means the child would become the older person, and the servant would become the leader. So he's just switching the roles.
He's
around.
switching the roles, but what he's meaning by that is there's a scripture in the Bible, and I know you've heard it. It says we are called children of God. And he says when when he was walking the earth and he was doing his teachings, the disciples were trying, he came into one village and all the kids were coming around him, all the children. And the disciples tried to back the kids off, saying, hey, 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 hey. And Jesus said, no, 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 no. For those are the ones that are going to be, and I'm paraphrasing this, the kingdom is theirs. We need to come to the Lord as like a child, because he's our father, he's our brother, he's our friend, he's our judge, he's our savior. So he's all these things rolled into one. And when we go to him, he's saying, come to me like a child, is what he's saying. So even though we might be a senior citizen, whatever age that is, okay? A grandpa, I'm a grandpa, but I'm not officially a senior citizen. I can't get a cup of coffee for $1 at the Arches, okay? Not yet. But what he's saying is, even though you might be up here in age, come to me like this. And basically saying, don't let anybody say you're too old. But he's also, what he's saying at this point is, even though you might be a king, even though you might be a ruler or a manager or a boss, okay? And I'm saying those words because I know that you work with your brother, and your older brother is your boss at this certain job, right? So even though he's your boss, he needs to end up being like a servant. And what I mean by that is not serving you.
Working with the rest.
Exactly. I've always said this to some of the bosses I've worked for, is I've said, you know what? I like working for you because you are a hands-on boss. You never asked me to do anything that you would not do yourself or that you have not already done. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So this is what Jesus is saying, is that even though you have this title, don't let the title go here.
Don't let the title define who you are.
Yes, because who you think you are, we need to say, we're here, but it's because of him. And I'm going to give him the glory. Okay? So it says, let the leader act the part of the servant. And then it goes on to verse 27, and it says, who would you rather be? The one who eats the dinner or the one who serves the dinner? He says, you'd rather eat and be served, right? Yes. But I've taken my place among you as the one who serves. Because he ended up breaking the bread.
He broke the bread and
he blessed the wine and served, right? So when we do communion, we ask people to come up and help us serve the elements, right? So, and it says, but I've read that, and you've stuck with me through thick and thin. Now I confer on you the royal authority my Father conferred on me, which that one there. But what I was getting at is God is wanting us to humble ourselves, think of others first, right? So you have this example of this, what we're talking about in that movie that we've been using for the last two Mondays, right? So let's go with that and let's hear that part of it.
So let's take the leader of the Decepticons, Lord Megatron. He's self-centered because he just cares about his race. He doesn't care about any other race. He cares about himself as well because he is the leader. It's a title for him. He has this title, leader of the Decepticons. Prime also has a title, but he doesn't let that title define him in a way. He does everything that the rest of the Autobots does. Yes, he may be the leader of the Autobots, but he still does everything else that the other Autobots do. Lord Megatron, another title, Lord. leader of the Decepticons, he lets the other people do his bidding. He lets them do what he wants done. He's never done it himself, but he lets them do it.
So he's more of an order thrower
Yep.
than a order doer
Yep.
type thing.
He throws the orders. He doesn't do them. He gives them away. Just doesn't do them.
And then when they're not done right,
He has to come in and fix it himself.
but he gets mad about
Yep.
it. Yeah, and he ends up criticizing the people that or the bad guys. Who are the
Decepticons.
Decepticons. So he criticizes them and ridicules them because they didn't do it right. Okay, you got more?
So another part, because Dad just brought this to my attention, in Revenge of the Fallen, when Starscream failed, the second in command of the Decepticons, he failed. Megatron got mad about it. He fixed it himself. But when it was Megatron and Starscream just together, Starscream threw his hand down, Megatron picked it up and hit him with his own arm. And Megatron has treads on his feet because he's also a tank, because that's what he can transform into. And he runs his treads on Starscream's body because of how mad he was that he had to do it himself.
Yeah.
That Starscream couldn't handle it himself.
And it all starts with that self-centeredness, wanting control, and you end up, and it's like a domino effect. You end up getting self-centeredness to the point where you want control. And then once you get to the point where you either